Welcome back to part 2 of this lesson. Before I begin, there are a few numbers and waypoint codes we need to have handy before attempting to take this test. 1. The frequency for the Olympia VOR, which is 113.4. 2. The course to the Olympia VOR on this flight, which is 332. 3. The GPS waypoint for the Olympia VOR, which is OLM. 4. The frequency for the Payne VOR, which is 110.6. 5. The course to the Payne VOR on this flight, which is 003. 6. The GPS waypoint for the Payne VOR, which is PAE. 7. The course for the outer marker intercept, which is 339. 8. The GPS waypoint for the outer marker, which is RITTS. 9. The frequency for the ILS runway 16 right, which is 109.3. 10. The inbound course for the ILS, which is 159. 11. The GPS waypoint for the ILS, which is IPAE. Before attempting to take this test, please read the guidelines regarding the ATP check ride. You must not fail any two parameters within the given checkpoints. There are 3 checkpoints on this flight. 1. When reaching the Olympia VOR. 2. When reaching the Payne VOR. 3. After completing a successful landing. Each checkpoint requires you to stay within the given parameters. I won't go over all of them here, but for example, you must not exceed 250 knots below 10,000 feet, and you must turn your landing lights on and set auto brakes to RTO before takeoff. Nothing I will be doing on this flight is extra or not required in order to pass. Failure to do so may result in failing one or more criteria and the check ride. To get started, you want to set up the aircraft. Watch as I preset the autopilot settings, tune the nav radio, turn on the lights, and so forth. Autopilot vertical speed set to 3,200 feet per minute, which is a pretty safe setting to start with. Autopilot altitude set to 28,000 feet. Autopilot bank rate set to 30 degrees.
On this check
Autopilot
ride,
heading set to 342 in preparation for the climbing turn.
as described in the flight briefing.
Autopilot
To earn
speed
the
set
flight
to
simulator
295
ATP certificate,
IAS.
I'm looking for precision in your flying. Throughout this flight, I'll be paying close attention to the criteria listed in the
Auto
briefing.
throttle
Because
armed,
I'm
flight
an
director
examiner, I
on,
won't
course
coach you or
selector
point
set
out
to
errors
332
along the way.
degrees.
However, at a few
Autopilot
checkpoints along the
N1
way,
settings
I'll
set to
announce if you've done well to
95%.
that point, or if you exceeded
Flaps
any tolerances.
lowered to 5.
If you're doing well, I'll give you your next clearance.
Auto brake
If you
set to
exceed the criteria
RTO.
listed in the briefing,
Nav
I'll
1
inform
radio
you that you've
standby
not passed
set
the
to
check ride. At that point, you can
110.6,
choose
which
to
is
continue
Payne.
flying on your own without
Nav 2
further
radio
evaluation,
standby
or you
set to
can end the flight.
113.4.
On this flight, I'll monitor air traffic
GPS
control and
waypoint
give you all
set
of
to
your clearances,
OLM, which
but I
is the
expect
Olympia
you to tune the
VOR and is there
navigation
mainly for
radios.
visual
All right,
reference.
good luck. Your departure instructions are to intercept the
Landing
332-degree
lights
course
on.
to the Olympia VOR. Climb and maintain flight level 280. I want you to level off before you reach 25 DME from the
Select your
Olympia
desired
VOR.
view. I like the
Then
locked
set cruise
spot
power
view
to
because
fly
you
at
can see what is
300
happening
knots using
outside.
airspeed.
I can then place the
Go ahead
instrument
and
panel
configure the
beneath.
aircraft for takeoff. When you're ready, you are cleared for takeoff on runway 28 right.
Now that the aircraft is set, gently bring the throttle up manually to 40% N1 with your parking brakes set. It takes very little throttle to hit 40%. If it starts going back down, just gently bring it up to 43% of N1, then release the parking brake. If you take a look at your main panel heading display, you'll see that it's slightly off center. When the airplane heading direction indicator centers, you can check to make sure you are aligned with the center of the runway. After centering with the runway, increase throttle manually slightly to 50-55% N1, then enable the N1 auto throttle. When reaching 80 knots, cross-check both speed indicators that they are in the green and active, reading 80 knots simultaneously. On this aircraft, the proper speed for takeoff is 154 knots and is called V2. 80 knots. 100. 120. 140. V1. V2, rotate, watch your tail. Gently, bring the nose up using 3 degrees nose up pitch per second until you reach 20 degrees nose up pitch. Positive brake, gear up, flaps to 1. While maintaining a 20-degree nose up pitch with the stick, turn on the autopilot command switch, then the altitude hold selector. When you see the flight director reach the desired pitch, only then let go of the stick. Also, turn on the autopilot heading hold selector and set the brakes to off. Now set N1 auto throttle to 91%. Don't set it to 90% because sometimes it will fall below 87% on the climb and you will fail the criteria. knots with drag flaps completely. Vertical speed now set to 3,500 feet per minute. As you climb to 10,000 feet, you want to keep an eye on the airspeed indicator. You want to climb to 10,000 between 235 and 250 knots. If you see the airspeed going up too quickly, increase the autopilot vertical speed gradually. "5,000. If you take a look at the main panel heading display, you'll see that it's tracking inbound to the Olympia VOR. When the needle is closing in on the center, you'll change the autopilot heading to 334. Now set the autopilot heading bank selector to 10 degrees. 8,000. Now turn to 334. Watch the heading indicator. When it reaches 336 degrees, you should turn the autopilot nav hold selector on. Now that you've reached 10,000 feet, decrease your vertical speed to about 2,800 feet per minute and turn the landing lights off. I'm doing this at 4x simulation speed to save time. However, you should take your time. 14,000.